She was never pregnant at all. Instead, the videos emboldened conspiracy theorists. They're calling it Megspiracy. Now they want to give their kids the titles of prince and princess, even though they don't live anywhere near the royal family. They don't do any duties. They do nothing to deserve it. They live in a mansion in Montecito in California and use their own royal titles to make loads of money. Princess Lilibet Diana had been christened. Why would they use a title for their children that represents an institution they loathe so?
The palace's quiet investigation into Archie and Lilibet that nobody saw coming. Something very unusual is reportedly happening inside Buckingham Palace right now, and it has nothing to do with Harry, nothing to do with Meghan directly, and everything to do with two children whose official records are apparently raising questions that senior advisors can no longer ignore. This is the kind of story that doesn't break with a headline. It builds slowly, quietly behind closed doors until one day the entire foundation of a very carefully constructed public image could shift in an instant. For weeks now, Piers Morgan has been hammering away at a question that most mainstream outlets seem reluctant to touch. And for a while it was easy to dismiss as one man's personal grudge. But here's what changed. Palace insiders are now reportedly backing parts of what he's been saying. American news outlets are picking it up. Royal watchers on both sides of the Atlantic are openly discussing details that were previously whispered about only in private circles. What started as one voice in the wilderness has turned into a full conversation, and it's gaining momentum faster than anyone expected.
Harry and Meghan have never provided any evidence for that highly incendiary claim. It's not like they haven't had the chance to. After all, they pumped out 6 hours of self-indulgent bilge on Netflix, trashing Britain and the press for its racism.
This crisis won't die down until the irrefutable truth comes out.
At the center of this growing storm is what's being described as an internal verification review launched by senior Buckingham Palace advisors. The focus isn't on Harry and Meghan's lifestyle choices or their Netflix deals or their public statements. The focus is reportedly on Archie and Lilibet specifically, their official records, their royal titles, their position in the line of succession, and whether every piece of documentation lines up the way the institution requires it to. When you're talking about children connected to the British throne, even small discrepancies matter enormously. And according to multiple reports, the discrepancies being examined right now aren't small at all. Let's start with Archie, because the questions surrounding his birth paperwork have been circulating for years, but they've never been addressed in a satisfying way. One detail that keeps coming up involves his birth certificate. As a legal document tied to someone in the line of succession, it's expected to remain consistent and precise from the moment it's issued, but reports confirmed that changes were made after the original filing. Meghan's full legal name, Rachel Meghan Markle, was reportedly adjusted so that her royal title appeared instead. The listing allegedly read Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex without a first or last name included. In any other context, an amendment to a birth certificate might not raise eyebrows, but within a system built entirely on tradition, accuracy, and meticulous record-keeping, that kind of edit doesn't happen casually. Every change requires a formal request, clear approval, and a documented reason behind it. And here's where things get messy. When questions came up about who initiated the change, the explanations from both sides didn't match. Meghan's team reportedly said the palace requested the adjustment. Palace insiders claimed it came from her side. Two completely different versions of events, no alignment between them, and no clear paper trail to settle the matter. That contradiction alone is enough to understand why people are taking a much closer look at the entire situation.
They decide, okay, well, we have to come out and show the baby in some way, but we're not coming out to the street. The filthy masses are not going to have anything to do with our kid. So then they show up and there's Meghan in her white dress with Harry, and he's holding this completely still baby.
Also, let's remember that Meghan was hale and hearty at 8 months pregnant, having not gained a pound, having not shown, that Spartan head. Is that the photograph where Archie does the deep dive between her legs?
Then there's the birth announcement itself, which deviated from royal protocol in ways that caught attention at the time and continue to fuel speculation today. Traditionally, royal births follow a very specific format. There's an official confirmation, medical verification from named doctors, and a formal palace announcement designed to remove any doubt and keep everything transparent. With Archie, that process reportedly didn't play out in the usual way. The timeline caused immediate confusion. The announcement suggested Meghan had just gone into labor, yet other reports indicated Archie may have already been born hours earlier. There were no confirmed hospital details shared publicly, no direct statements from medical professionals at the time, and no independent verification released through the usual channels.
That it just really kind of boggles the mind. I mean, just for titles, for example. So when Archie was first born, they said they didn't want him to have a title. He was going to be a private citizen. I was like, bravo, you understand. He's not going to be a working member of the royal family. He is going to have to live a normal life, get a normal job. That is fantastic. And then it came out later in the Oprah Winfrey interview. Well, they denied him a title and security because he is a mixed race child. And then it was kind of like...
And the two main feeders of the rumors, according to Lady C's book, Meghan was too big for, well, I suppose her first baby, and also too big for the fact of only having one child.
Piers Morgan has been particularly vocal about one specific detail. Unlike the announcements for Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, Archie's announcement reportedly did not include signatures from attending doctors. Those signatures aren't just a formality within the royal system. They function as official medical confirmation. Without them, the standard verification process that the institution relies on has a gap in it, and gaps in royal records are the kind of thing that palace advisors take very seriously.
Meghan Markle gave birth to Lily because this is what's called plausible deniability. They want to be able to say, hey, we never claimed that she was our daughter in that announcement. They're legally covering their backs. There's just too many unknowns. And then, of course, we have that the doctor that allegedly delivered Lily quit her practice 2 weeks after giving birth to Lily or delivering Lily. That sentence there is missing. That is a vital sentence that Meghan Markle chose not to put in an official statement because she knows she would get into a lot of legal trouble and she needed plausible deniability.
Now shift the focus to Lilibet, because this is where reports say the most intense scrutiny is currently directed. Her birth took place in California, announced through Harry and Meghan's own team rather than through official palace channels. There were no UK-based doctors involved, no royal medical staff present, and no formal palace bulletin released in the traditional style. Even the symbolic gestures people associate with royal births were absent. No official notice displayed outside Buckingham Palace, no carefully staged public introduction following established protocol. For most public figures, doing things differently would be completely understandable. But when a child is connected to the British line of succession, centuries of tradition aren't treated as optional. They exist specifically to maintain the integrity of the institution. And stepping outside that framework isn't something the palace can simply overlook without consequences.
They're legally covering their backs. There's just too many unknowns. And then, of course, we have that the doctor that allegedly delivered Lily quit her practice 2 weeks after giving birth to Lily or delivering Lily. That sentence there is missing.
Meghan's Netflix series released to the world this morning is packed with, well, not really revelations, are they? It's sort of rehashed old revelations with a new twist. As it turns out, we've apparently been wrong all along. Britain is a nasty, racist hellhole where only magnificent Meghan stood up to all this and the world's biggest victim.
What I discovered was, of course, that she was hunting for a man in England from 2013 onwards when her marriage had crashed and she couldn't find anyone in Canada at the time. And she wanted wealth and she wanted fame.
But the detail reportedly causing the biggest reaction inside royal circles involves Lilibet's christening. When palace advisors reviewed the records tied to the ceremony that was said to have taken place in California, reports claimed they couldn't locate an official entry. No registry listing, no confirmation linked to a bishop, no acknowledgement connected to the archbishop's office. In royal tradition, a christening is far more than a symbolic family event. It serves a formal role in connecting a royal child to the Church of England, which has deep and inseparable historical ties to the crown itself. When those expected records don't appear where they should, it naturally triggers a level of institutional concern that goes beyond simple curiosity.
Either Archie or Lily, and it needs to happen. They need to prove that those children, Meghan and Harry, are not entitled to privacy in this matter. And their privacy is trumped by our right to know that no bastard is going to sit on the throne of this country.
Apparently, they invited all the royals to Lilibet's christening, but they all declined to come, as if they're all going to get on a plane and fly to California to embrace the people who've been trashing them for the last 3 years. But it looks like from the jungle drums, they have been invited.
A lot of the royal watchers were complaining that they felt like her posts on social media where she barely shows the kids is almost taunting the king, who doesn't know these children.
And this is precisely the point Piers Morgan keeps driving home with increasing force. He argues that the palace doesn't initiate reviews like this without substantial reason. The monarchy can absorb public criticism, media scandals, and even family disagreements without breaking stride. But uncertainty around lineage, official records, and succession protocols is treated as an entirely different category of concern. These aren't personal questions, they're constitutional ones, and the institution is designed to protect itself on exactly these grounds. The conversation has also expanded well beyond birth records and christening documentation. Piers Morgan has been relentless in questioning how the Sussex titles are being used commercially. His argument is direct and difficult to dismiss. Every public appearance, every business partnership, every brand collaboration features the Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles front and center. Those titles aren't just names, they carry the weight and authority of the British crown. And if two people are simultaneously distancing themselves from the institution while leveraging its titles for commercial gain, that creates a contradiction the palace eventually has to address.
Everything that Meghan is doing in her pursuit to become a lifestyle billionaire goes completely against the agreement that she made with Prince Harry not to exploit their children for commercial gain.
Now they want to give their kids the titles of prince and princess, even though they don't live anywhere near the royal family. They don't do any duties. They do nothing to deserve it. They live in a mansion in Montecito in California and use their own royal titles to make loads of money.
Morgan frequently points to the Oprah interview as a pivotal moment in this entire saga. During that conversation, Meghan shared that Archie had not been given a royal title and suggested the decision was connected to concerns about his skin color. That claim sent shockwaves around the world and fundamentally changed how millions of people viewed the royal family. But Morgan pushed back immediately and has continued to do so ever since. He pointed to the letters Patten established during King George V's era, which clearly outlined the rules governing royal titles. Under those long-established guidelines, great-grandchildren of a monarch do not automatically receive prince or princess titles. That's a general rule applied across the board, not something targeted at any specific individual. In Archie's case, the timing simply hadn't aligned yet under those provisions. The claim made during the Oprah interview presented the situation very differently from how the existing rules actually work, and that disconnect continues to fuel the debate. What makes this moment feel genuinely different from previous rounds of royal controversy is the scope of what's reportedly being discussed behind the scenes. This isn't just about one couple's titles anymore. Reports suggest that any future decisions could apply more broadly across the royal family. Names like Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie have been mentioned in that wider conversation, hinting at a potential move toward greater consistency. The principle being discussed is straightforward. If someone is not actively working within the royal system, holding an official title becomes increasingly difficult to justify. Piers Morgan often points to figures like Zara Tindall, who has built a successful and respected public life without relying on a formal royal title, as proof that alternative paths exist. Then there's the question of what happens next, and several possible outcomes are reportedly being weighed by those closest to the situation. One option is what insiders describe as a quiet freeze, where the titles would technically still exist but wouldn't be actively used or officially recognized anymore, gradually fading into irrelevance over time. A second possibility involves a quiet reclassification, with names removed from official listings without any major announcement, effectively placing Archie and Lilibet fully outside the working royal structure as private individuals. The third option is the most consequential and the one Piers Morgan suggests could now genuinely be on the table: formal removal. If this reported review determines that established royal birth protocols and lineage standards weren't followed in a manner the institution recognizes and accepts, then the Crown has the authority to act directly. No prolonged public debate. No extended negotiations. A decision made to protect the structural integrity of the monarchy itself. Reports also suggest that Harry believed his children's royal status was essentially permanent, something that couldn't be questioned regardless of where the family lived or how they conducted their public lives. That assumption is now being tested in ways he apparently didn't anticipate. There are claims that Harry has attempted to reach out to senior royals, making calls that reportedly haven't been returned. The reason being suggested is telling. When the palace moves into constitutional territory, personal relationships and emotional appeals don't drive the process anymore. The institution's protocols take over and move forward on their own terms. Piers Morgan has directed sharp criticism at King Charles as well, arguing that there were multiple opportunities over the past several years to make firm decisions after the Oprah interview, after the Netflix series, after the memoir. Each time, according to Morgan, decisive action could have been taken but wasn't. That pattern of hesitation, in his view, is exactly what allowed the situation to expand into something far more complex and consequential than it ever needed to become. The pressure is now reportedly shifting toward Prince William, and this is where the trajectory of the entire story could change dramatically. Morgan has been clear that he sees William as someone who would approach these matters with greater structural discipline. William understands what's at stake not just in this moment but for the monarchy's future, with Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis set to carry the institution forward. The decisions being made right now could define the framework they inherit. Meanwhile, reports claim Meghan could challenge any attempt to alter the titles through legal action. That possibility alone has sparked intense debate. But Piers Morgan was quick to highlight a fundamental reality. The authority behind royal titles originates directly from the Crown. Because of that origin, any legal challenge becomes extraordinarily complex. The question of who ultimately controls what a royal title means and who has the power to grant or revoke it doesn't have a simple answer in a courtroom. It's a constitutional matter that sits at the intersection of monarchy, tradition, and law in ways that most legal frameworks aren't designed to handle neatly. What makes all of this so compelling is the contrast between what the public sees and what's reportedly happening behind the scenes. The polished social media posts, the carefully timed announcements, the brand partnerships, all of it presents one version of reality. But according to those tracking these developments closely, a very different and much more complicated situation is unfolding away from public view. The institution is doing what it has always done when its foundations are questioned, moving carefully, methodically, and with an awareness that whatever decisions emerge will echo for generations. The system was built to protect itself above all else. Individuals come and go, controversies rise and fade, but the monarchy endures because it prioritizes institutional integrity over personal narratives every single time. If even a fraction of what's being reported turns out to carry real weight, the implications extend far beyond one family story. They touch the very principles that hold the entire structure together. And the question that remains unanswered is whether the palace will address this publicly and transparently or handle everything behind closed doors without it ever becoming an official headline. Either path carries enormous consequences. Either path changes the conversation permanently. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.